Robert White here to share some ideas potentially useful to leaders. People in social situations have asked me, what do mentors actually do? And my response is, I am an interruption. I interrupt patterns and communicate insight into attitudes, habits, and behaviors. You can learn more at therobertwhite.com. Hopefully this brief talk will be a valuable interruption for you. In our high-impact experiential learning events, we work a lot on personal leadership, and I've said it many times, the basis of great leadership is to be able to develop effective relationships, trust relationships. And the number one thing that gets in the way of trust relationships, in my experience, is being right. And particularly this shows up, frankly, in intimate relationships, between husbands and wives, but also in friendships and on the job. Because being right becomes more important than getting the result. I mean, that's just reality, and you kind of know it already. I certainly know it already, and I still get trapped by it personally. So I've mentioned that it's a high-impact experiential learning, and here, this is just a video. So how can we do that? Well, it requires your imagination. So here's the exercise. I want you to imagine yourself doing it. We talk a little bit about how being right is the number one killer of relationships. And then we instruct people to do an exercise where they stand in front of each other and they clasp hands like this. So imagine there's somebody with their back to you and to the camera right now, and we're grasping hands like this. And then we do what looks like arm wrestling. And that is, I would say, I'm right. And I would push the other person's hand down physically. And then they would say, I'm right, and push your hand way over here. And then I would say, but I'm right. And then they would say, no, 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 I'm right. So when you do that we do it for about 3 minutes. Can you imagine the energy in the room? I mean, people are so happy being right. You would not believe it. I mean, people are laughing, they're screaming, they're just really enjoying being right. And then you have them take a deep breath and you talk a little bit about what that exercise just cost them in terms of the relationship with that other person. Being right is temporary pleasure and permanent pain. So part 2 of the exercise, after they've taken several deep breaths, is that we model this and then they do it, which is one of the persons says, I'm right. And the other person says, I acknowledge your point of view, and here is mine. But I'm right. I acknowledge your point of view, but here is mine. Can you imagine how powerful that is for people? That it brings peace, it brings deep communication, it brings a connection to the other person. And then in the exercise, we reverse roles, and the other person says they're right, and you say, I acknowledge your point of view, but here's mine. And also there's a language trick within it, if you think about it. Because what you're saying subliminally is that thing that you say you're right about, it's just a point of view. But I accept it. And now that creates a space for your point of view to be given to the other person. It's language magic. It works. I highly recommend it. If you get off of being right, you can start creating the results that you really want in that relationship and in life. That's my interruption for today. The game for me is relationships, which require connection. So let's connect. The best way is to identify an issue, something that's captured your thoughts and concerns. And perhaps I could share some useful ideas in a 30-minute confidential chat. You can compare our calendars and book a no-obligation meeting at therobertwhite.com. You'll also find ways there to connect to my writing, speaking, and free weekly reminders. For now, have an extraordinary day, and I look forward to connecting soon.